We get a lot of questions here at Mod in Japan about Lexus ISF, RCF, GSF, and LC500 mods. But by far, the most common question we get on a daily basis is, it's time to replace my brake pads. Which pads would you recommend for me in my application? How they find us is most people head to the dealership, get a quote, get sticker shocked, and usually I get a call right after that. It's pretty common to see brake replacement quotes usually around $3,000 plus. With a little bit of research, a lot of owners find us because they find out that aftermarket brake pads are not only more cost effective, they are actually a major improvement over their OEM pads for a lot of reasons, with the number one being dust control. Now before we get into the options, it's really important that you as a driver ask yourself an important question. Realistically, what am I going to do with my car and what are my braking needs? Just because the brake pads that are strong enough to stop the force of 1,000 suns and the street pads are close in price, doesn't mean that you should buy the Formula One grade stuff. Not only will you never use it, it will completely ruin your driving experience and piss off your significant other and/or children from the horrible noise and dust pollution you will inflict on them. For today's discussion, the general rule of thumb when we're talking about brake pads is the higher you go up in performance, the pads will become more dusty and more noisy. Now before you attack me for saying that out loud, I'm just saying that's how it is in general. This way we can at least have a discussion about street pads that can be used for the track as well. There will always be situations in made-up alloys that can do amazing things. Now after selling a substantial amount of different brake pads and brands over the last 10 years, we have arrived at these three pads that we always try to keep in stock and should cover the needs of 98% of the community. From most streetable to most aggressive, these are the Project Mu Type NSC, Project Mu Type PS, and TOMS Performer 600C. To start the discussion, let's begin with the characteristics that these three brake pads share, and that's that they are low dust, low noise, and offer a bite that is comparable or better than OEM, especially as you go more aggressive. They also all operate with a rotor temperature starting at 0 degrees Celsius, but more on rotor temperature later. On that note, all three brake pads would make a fantastic street pad upgrade. Now let's start talking about the differences and the specifics, starting with the Project Mu Type NSC. The NSC builds off the successes of its former compound, the NS, by updating its performance and making it more environmentally sound, being copper-free. Out of the three pads, this particular one is ultra-low noise and ultra-low dust, being the lowest out of the three options with a fantastic bite. It has a friction coefficient of 0.34 to 0.38 mu and has a rotor operating temperature of 0 degrees to 400 degrees Celsius. Now let's stop here for a moment and talk about the operating rotor temperature. For more track-oriented race pads, you'll find that these types of pads will have an operating temperature that does not start at 0. For example, a mild pad that I get asked a lot about is the Endless MX72. It's a great track pad with a rotor temperature range of 50 degrees Celsius to 700 degrees Celsius. If you have an F that you daily drive, this means that in the morning, when you first get going, your rotor is cold, so you'll need to warm up those rotors before they work effectively. Now this is great if you get a warm-up lap before your hot lap at the track. Really crappy if you're holding a cup of coffee on the way to the office. If you get an even more aggressive pad that operates at say 300 degrees Celsius as a starting temp, get ready for your car to sound like a banshee and for your neighbors to hate you as you frantically gas and slam on your brakes to get temperatures in them so it'll start working as you head into traffic. Needless to say, that would only happen if you bought something too aggressive, so be honest about your needs and avoid headaches. Getting back to the Type NSC, if you are a daily driver with some spirited driving on the weekends, this is the pad for you. In fact, I would argue that 80% of you out there fits this mold. They also have a position for the OEM brake wear sensor, which is an added bonus for the RCF and GSF owners. Moving along to the next pad, the Project Mu Type PS. This pad is also low dust and low noise, but with a better bite than the NSC with a braking coefficient of 0.38 to 0.45 mu, and an operating rotor temperature of 0 degrees to 500 degrees Celsius. Now, this kind of driver is not only a daily driver, this is an aggressive daily driver / weekend warrior that likes a little more bite and might enjoy some time on the back roads, that may or may not go to the track. Jumping up to this from the NSC, expect a little more dust and maybe the occasional squeak, but you also gain an improved performance in terms of braking as well as reduced brake fade. So it is a very well-rounded street pad that offers a little bit more. Remember, the noise and dust is a little bit more, still low, but will be more, so if you don't need that extra performance, no need to jump up unless you're the type. The RCF and GSF version of this pad also does come with OEM brake wear sensor positions. This one just happens to be an ISF rear. And finally, we talk about the TOMS Performer 600C. This pad is also low dust, low noise, and in this case, a really good bite better than OEM. If you're not familiar with TOMS, their products are incredible. Now, I don't have braking coefficient numbers, but this pad operates from 0 degrees to 600 degrees Celsius and includes anti-squeal shims out of the box to make up for the improved performance. Out of all three, this one will have the occasional brake squeak, but is generally quiet unless it's cold out. In exchange for that little extra noise and dust, you will have the best braking and anti-fade performance out of the three we talked about, but you sacrifice a little more dust and noise for that benefit. The driver that should buy these pads is someone that daily drives their car but has an interest in occasionally going to the track, but will drive to and from the track in this car. So let's review the numbers again. The Type NSC operates from 0 to 400 degrees Celsius, the Type PS from 0 to 500 degrees Celsius, and TOMS rounding it up from 0 to 600 degrees Celsius. So I'm curious, what brake pad would be best for your driving style? Let us know in the comments below your experience with these pads or which ones you think you should drive with. And again, thank you for your support in watching this video. If you have any topics you'd like us to cover, let us know in the comments below. And if you want to support the channel, please comment, like, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.